Okay, let's give it a start.
Yeah, well, welcome. Thanks particularly for the opportunity to present our technology in this lecture. Kamil has prepared a very interesting use case scenario or application, and we will present some really hands-on examples on what can be done today already with blockchain technology in industrial settings. And well, we are ARXUM. I'm Markus, Jostock CEO, having a software background. The company has been founded only last year, but we've been underway with blockchain technology, particularly in supply chain, quite a while ago. So now we're talking about deep holistic supply chain digitization. And it means that it's all about cross-company data exchange, which is obviously relevant in supply chains. And deeply, it's because we are really we'll show you how interconnecting companies on a level that allows them to automate cross-company business processes. So as I said, although the company has been founded only last year, already 2017 we started, if you want, like as a project from a industrial production digitization company, what we would call here in Germany Industry 4.0. Basically started off with a secure IoT cyber gateway connecting production machines to a blockchain infrastructure. And now it grew, and the business model really expanded into a software as a service system. Yeah, we have some nice examples to show you. Just go ahead. So yeah, that's a little bit of the history. So we're not bound to certain industry, which is probably important because blockchain is a cross-sectional technology. So it's not bound to certain industries, although everybody knows it emerged from the financial industry. And certainly there are many advantages still to come if we're talking about digital currencies, but that's not at all our focus. So we are a member of 5HT, which is a digital hub for chemistry and health, for instance. I can report later on a project we're doing in the pharmaceutical sector. MOBI, obviously. We are actively pursuing or promoting and implementing our solution in the automotive sector. And for instance, also in circular economy. Yeah, there's one project I just want to mention called RIFE, Resource Efficient Economic Intelligent Food Chain, which is really about preventing food waste. It's a huge topic all over the world. Different countries are caring of this, and we're also there talking about supply chain effects, and gives you a good example of what is required when you're talking about optimizing supply chains, because you need to exchange information, and particularly you need to exchange information between companies that have contradictory interests, because one company wants to sell at a high price, the other one wants to buy at a low price, to make it very simple. And if you're talking about perishable goods or other things, then obviously there might be conditions where somebody is getting under price pressure, which will result in the destruction of the food, because you can't sell it at a decent price, although you could have pushed it into different channels like large canteens, if there is only a remaining life of 2 weeks or whatever, which would be too short for a supermarket, large surfaces, whatever. And this is the general setting that we're in which we are operating as ARXUM with our blockchain-based solution. You have companies in a competitive environment competing for orders and projects, and but if they would collaborate on a different level, they would both at all be able to improve their performance, increase efficiency, and certainly cut down costs and increase product quality. We'll show you an example on how that could be achieved. Yeah, so our approach is pretty unique. You will see why in a minute. That has been realized by a couple of independent magazines, whatever. So as I said, we are active in logistics, also in the automotive sector. They were currently engaged in projects with a large OEM, but we've also worked already with suppliers, tier 1 suppliers in that area. And it's all what we do about digitization. So we're put into the upper right corner in terms of challenging and competitive strengths. It's an interesting approach that I hope we can convey today to you on how you could tackle digitization without borders, without interruptions, unintermittent digitization, not only across companies, but maybe also within corporates across business unit frontiers, or going to say divisional barriers. Yeah, mission. Well, what are we doing? We very quickly, right at the beginning, came to the conclusion that we don't want to do projects in terms of building monolithic software for each customer. But we created immediately focused on the creation of a middleware, a software which is easy to apply in an industrial context. So in order to actually reduce the complexity to connect company IT systems, because the problems that we're tackling in supply chain management exist already for quite a long while, 20 years and more. And well, you could solve these problems, interconnecting companies, automating the exchange of information and data. Although companies are prudent, giving their customers access to their internal databases, well, there would probably be means in achieving this with traditional technology, but it is complex. So many IT systems, so many players, everybody trying to push his own standard and having the least effort. So many questions about cybersecurity, and all that can be tackled with this unique technology, which unifies a lot of, what can I say, attributes through one single approach. So that is what we're actually doing. We're interconnecting companies based on a blockchain infrastructure, but mainly we're providing, if you want, the middleware to facilitate the interconnection of IT systems. And particularly this results in, that's okay, particularly that results in the automation of business logic, because it's, digitization and in itself is not worth it if you don't, seize advantages. And most advantages you seize by automating processes, cutting away manual effort, taking away steps which take time if somebody is not there. Everybody's seen that in the recent COVID crisis, when supply chains were on hold. All the processes that required somebody to be there in person to do something or to collaborate personally, that were in trouble. So anything that was set up in automatically in the digital way was quite well off. And that's why we created this little ARXUM suite. And we, based on our experience since 2017, we found out that basically every use case you can concentrate, or you can condense on one of four, let me call it use cases or modules. So either you want to transfer data between companies, exchanging data. Somebody, your supplier, has some information and data that you as a customer would require, so you need to transfer this. So for each of these cases, we have created a module. The next one would be tracking. In the supply chain, you want to know where is a certain good. For instance, in car manufacturing, there's more than 200 steps to be performed, or stations that a car will pass during manufacturing. A company does know that a car is being manufactured, but they don't necessarily know which station within production it has already passed. Or a container in global transport. Is it still in the port? Has it reached already its destination? And you would be astonished how many diverging different answers you would get if you ask different companies on the whereabouts of the very same container. Tracing is rather what product or components have been put into one product, being it discrete elements or being it material mixed together. And the last module is tokenizing. So tokenizing, meaning we digitizing physical assets. So giving a physical asset a digital representation on a blockchain, which can, for instance, be applied. We're active in that area in the circular economy, where one could represent a certain amount of recycled plastic on a blockchain as a so-called token, which isn't nothing else than a certificate if you want. You could put CO2 certificates on a blockchain and push them along with the product. So that gives you a traceability and a credibility on the whereabouts and the origin of these products. And talking about supply chain and sustainability, this is certainly going to be, in this combination, a very important subject. But I think now we're just jumping into one of these modules, and Kamil will give you a very interesting look at how a transfer of data, sounds very simple, between companies could be automated in a very different way with a lot of benefits to gain on each side.
Thanks, Markus, for the great entrance here in this call. And as you just said, we are going to deep dive a little bit into the transfer module. Why is this interesting for partners in the supply chain, and why is that so relevant? And I would like just to start with a very simple picture here. Two different parties, a manufacturer and a supplier, which are exchanging information, data for in different ways. Like, for example, they are using already an EDI interface, which helps to at least reduce the manual effort between both parties here in the manual way. And but still, there are a couple of companies which do not have an EDI interface. Maybe smaller companies, maybe also bigger companies which do not have that interface, or not using it actually for a certain area of their business. You don't necessarily need to have that for every area in your business. So therefore, you maybe struggle a little bit with the communication to your supplier. So this is actually an issue because most of the cases, if you have demand to a production, to a supplier, you just can react on the demand. So you're getting the information. Maybe there's a volume change of the demand of a specific product or item. So that means you have then react on this information, and maybe also the supplier have an issue in the production and is not able to deliver parts in a defined to a defined date and a defined manner. So then, of course, the manufacturer for his production line has to react on this information. The other issue is that the manufacturer is only able to plan based on batches. That means you have a bigger batch of parts, 1,000 parts, I don't know, or a different, or liquid or something, and you do not have the information about this part or about this batch. So what quality is it, and maybe what measurement data of each of these parts are in this batch. So we just have this batch information and not more than this. And this is also in your ERP system. You only see you have a certain amount of this item in your stock, or is in delivery, or should be in the production line. That's the only information you have. So that's the issue. You do not have the attributes to this specific parts, yeah, which can be interesting for you as a manufacturer or assembler or OEM when we are staying in the car manufacturing branch. Then this is actually a big issue because it does not help you to plan proactive and not just on reacting manner. So the last one, last big issue I would like here to highlight is as already Markus has mentioned, the manual effort you have. Because from my personal experience, I was working in the warranty department at the OEM, and I had a couple of suppliers to tackle my issues, my problems I have with the parts in the vehicle. So I always had the possibility to write them an email or ask them for information, for data, very specific data, sometimes even standard data they have to deliver anyway in a specific time frame. So the contracts which the manufacturer or the supplier have, most of the times are saying deliver data. So why don't automate this this procedure here as well? So our approach, as Markus just has mentioned, is one of the most interesting modules we have, I guess, from my side, is the transfer module. So what does that mean exactly? We are not using a very specific interface. We are using the standard REST API interface at any IT system. So we do not have to harmonize IT systems here. So a supplier can have his system and a manufacturer can have his system, or a cloud-based service like Amazon, Azure or G Cloud or whatever it is. So we are able to connect these two parties here with a very smart software, which we are calling the connectivity agent. So it's using the REST API, connecting to any system, like it could be also an ERP system, an MES system, or a CAQ system, whatever it is, or any planning tools. So we are connecting those two parties with this connectivity agent, and which came then into what is the next very important thing here in terms of the innovative way how we are using blockchain is that we started to think about, okay, let's have a look on the smart contracts. A smart contract is a script on the blockchain which can execute different things on the blockchain. So why do not take the business rules or the access rules for a specific data set? Like I'm a manufacturer, I would like to see the data I'm getting from my suppliers. So okay, show me the important data I would like to receive. So within the business rules, the smart contract, the supplier is able to define very clearly which part of my data I'm going to make them visible for my manufacturer. And this can be easily written in the smart contract as a business rule. So the connectivity agent is communicating with the smart contract and is always asking, do I have to act or to react on a specific request, exactly. Thanks.
Kamil, can I ask you? Can I just inject a question, because maybe
course, yeah.
maybe that is of interest. We're talking about business rules.
Yes.
So just to make it a little bit more tangible, so what type a type of rule would, for instance, be that one supplier who certainly is delivering to several of customers, maybe delivering different quality to different car manufacturers, whatever, or customers, he could define in the business rules that a specific customer does have access only to a very specific range of serial numbers that have been really delivered to this customer. So it must be prevented that some customer is getting information that has actually been delivered on components that have been delivered to a competitor. Or
Exactly.
he could define that, well, I want to limit your access to maybe 50 data sets per week or per day. I don't want you to be able to pull everything because for different reasons, I give you only access to a limited number or different levels of details. Just that's about to make it a little bit more tangible.
Yes, exactly. Thanks, Markus. So actually, exactly this is what it is. So the data owner is always writing their rules by him or by his own. So he's defining who's able to access my my database or the request actually, and how many I would like to make it visible for the manufacturer and so on. And this is actually always a bi-directional communication stance here, because we are creating here a governance level which is actually defining the rules, the accesses, and we do not have the full access to the IT systems. We are just we're just pinpointing our specific data areas or in the database to pull the relevant information which is important for the other party, like specific measurement data of parts or specific attribute data which are needed for the manufacturer to plan his production and so on. So this is actually the key element here of this transfer module, which is able to create then the batch, the attributes delivery per batch to the manufacturer. So here now we are starting to have a bidirectional information flow, because we can set that up, like what is needed for supplier, what is needed for the manufacturer. So then we have in the possibility to act bidirectional.
Where's one more a couple of questions concerning this setup. So normally the manufacturer, he would send an email. I call this always, I usually call this pseudo digital communication. So somebody is sending a digital email to a recipient, but he's typing it manually, requesting data, and the counterpart is pulling the data from the database and zipping it, or providing a pseudo digital PDF file, sending it back. Which is really manual, digital but manual. But in this case, the request is interestingly not arriving at the IT of the data owner, like if the manufacturer is requesting data from the supplier. But what I think is really interesting and remarkable in this setting is that the request from the manufacturer is actually sent to the smart contract of the supplier. So it's the smart contract who is receiving a request, maybe for, please give me, I'm the manufacturer number 2, please give me the data for serial number 3. And it's the smart contract based on his business rules who is actually verifying, does this manufacturer number 2 have the right to pull data for this serial number? Is it already the 51st request this week, or is it still within limits? And whatever rule has been set forth by the supplier is actually verified by the smart contract. So it's not some external or some IT script which is running on premise at one of these two parties, but it's the business logic that is executed on the blockchain in the smart contract. And since only the supplier has the keys to change these rules, he must not be afraid that somebody is sneaking in, changing the script from 50 data sets to 5,000 data sets, pulling 5,000 data sets and setting it back again, because that is one of the fears which is obviously present in industry once you kind of automate this type of data exchange. And obviously, if you automate, you need to program it somewhere as a script. And in this case, the request is actually being verified by a smart contract, and only if the smart contract says, okay, this is a valid request. The request is registered, and the connectivity agent will serve this through this, let's say, the green block bidirectional information flow. The real information which is pulled by the connectivity agent from the supplier database for this particular serial number, maybe quality data, that has been requested, is actually pushed through a different channel to the manufacturer. So the true data, we have a slide on that, the true data is not on the blockchain, but the thing is that we use these smart contracts to guide everybody, or to guard everybody's how can I say, ownership of data. You define the rules on your data. Maybe since, as Kamil explained, it's a bidirectional information flow. Also, the manufacturer would like to give his supplier some access on the data, maybe on his production planning, maybe on certain shift information or whatever, on certain requirements, on specific car configurations or product configurations. So this can go in the other direction. And since you suddenly can, as it's indicated in the green flash, transmit information on attributes, this opens a whole new way of seizing advantages through an integrated digitization. Although we're interconnecting, automating the exchange of data between two companies, we don't need to connect their IT systems directly.
Yeah, exactly. So, and to finalize that, as you just explained, the information is not really, we are not pulling the information from the IT system, but the smart contract is asking the connectivity agent to send that via a second channel to the other connectivity agent. So the transfer is always from internal IT system to external IT system. So you're not pulling everything from one side, and this is actually a very good, a very high security level we are using here.
Yeah, particularly also because the transfer data, and now we're coming, I'm just maybe disclosing a little detail on how we realize this on blockchain. Since you need an identity in the blockchain world, we are encrypting the data package with the key of the recipient. So it's the only one that can actually read the data which is sent to him. Cryptography is an integrated feature of blockchain, and it solves so many problems. And while companies are still struggling in setting up a decent email encryption, this technology here has already all the building blocks at hand. You wanna go on that?
Correct. Yeah. So this is just a one slide, which is a little bit summarizing that you have your company and your partners you would like to work with or exchange data, and this is how we are using it. So we have an own blockchain infrastructure where we are using all those modules like the transfer, tracking, tracing, and the tokenizing module. And based on that modules, we are executing the use cases or the projects we are running. So this is then one block is the infrastructure. On the second side, you have the connectivity agent, which is running on premise or can be also run on cloud, connected by a REST API to the corporate system. And we are using also an IPFS cluster for transferring the data beside the blockchain from connectivity agent to connectivity agent, because this is a very efficient and safe way to do that. And it is very good to integrate into the complete system here.
And this modular approach actually allows us, as I said, we have like identified these 4 use cases that we cast into modules of the software. So we have kind of pre-configured smart contract templates for tracking, tracing, transfer, and tokenizing that enables us to really quickly set up a use case up and running, get it up and running. To give you a concise example, We were now doing a project in France in a pharmaceutical sector, from once we had the user requirements ready up to the moment where this solution, the POC, was up and running, it was like 4 weeks. So if you would try to do that with a monolithic application, you build everything yourselves, probably not possible. And that is, we're talking now about rollout. It is really our approach to say, we know what is necessary. We have pre-provided different use case scenarios, smart contracts at hand that are actually specific to industries or use cases, like a digital twin, data transfer of digital twins, that enables us with this artifacts and this middleware in terms of connectivity agent, and it even goes further into what we can install on site with pre-prepared software units, that we can integrate very quickly. Because the blockchain is a very important part of such a solution and in the supply chain, but it's the critical part is how do we effectively and efficiently connect to existing IT systems, because we don't want to replace systems, we want to amend them.
Exactly. Thanks, Markus. So just to maybe finalize that with one very important slide, I guess, just to have it visible again in his mind. We are not storing the customer data on the blockchain. So we don't want to create one blockchain, maybe even an open one where everybody can see the data. No, we are using private blockchains. We are using the blockchain technology at itself, it's just described as a kind of governance level for data transmission in this case. And but also it depends on the customer demand. Like the customer would like to have data on the blockchain, then of course, depending on that, we are able to do that, sure. But our approach, the first thing, first thought we have here is to do not put that on the blockchain because of performance levels, because issues, because of the security, and also because it does not really make sense in an industrial context here.
Yeah, many first approaches went this way. Kamil, we found this in that when blockchain came up and suddenly people realized this is a great technology for supply chain management. The first and initial idea was to say, oh yeah, let's just put the data on the blockchain and everybody can pull whatever is necessary for him. But the point is that no company wants you to see with whom you're dealing, with whom you're having business relations, what's your market share, how many items or batches you sell or transfer, and why would one double information on a blockchain which is already present and kept in internal data silos. So we say, keep it in your data silo. We just make it available through this mechanism to your peers.
Yeah, not copying everything and making a second big data lake, but just using the existing data lakes to creating like a virtual data bucket or something with all information which are pulled from the various databases.
I particularly like this image Kamil invented from this virtual data bucket. It's like everybody's talking about the data lake, but it's probably more that there's a couple of many lakes being distributed in every company, and within the company there's data in different IT systems, in the manufacturing execution system, in the warehouse management system, in your ERP system, in databases. But what you really need is just one bucket full of very specific data to be transported to some destination where you can evaluate it. And this is what we're actually doing.
And then efficiently running the business process, and maybe also this is a part of it, monitoring this business process. Is it running as it should, as it was initially designed, or do we have any issues somewhere? which are not allowing to do that business like it was initially planned. So maybe one quick look on the projects we are running right now.
Yep.
May I interrupt with a question that we have from today?
Of course.
Sure.
What framework was used for your implementation? Is it cloud hosted, distributed across multiple regions?
We are using the EOS.io blockchain that was introduced by Block One. That has the particular aspiration being an industrial grade high performance blockchain that we are operating. And yes, it is cloud-based. The nodes can be launched in any region. That's no problem. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's have a look on the projects. So Max, would you like to present that, or shall I go through?
That's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, good. So in circular economy, I just mentioned it in the beginning, digitization of plastics, recycling plastic. It's a very interesting topic. Due to the COVID crisis, petrol is even cheaper. Virgin plastic is cheap. Many legislations require that you put a certain amount of recycling plastic into your new FMCGs, fast-moving consumer goods, so bottles of shampoo or drinks. And so there's a huge level of fraud. And fraud protection is really, really interesting. Same thing in pharmaceutical industry. So as I said, we wrote this project out, or first realization, although we didn't even, never done this before, 4 weeks, providing an audit trail. So an immutable audit trail of, as Kamil said, processes, tracking of processes, what has been done, and there are some actions that are invalid. For instance, if you ever change a file with raw data, as soon as that happens, we can immutably document this event and declare the whole lab run as invalid.
Invalid. Yeah.
And Project Reif, resource efficient intelligent food chain, that's all about exchanging data across a food supply chain. The idea behind it is using AI for waste reduction, but in order to be able to do that, you need to have data which is actually lying in this data side of your supplier. And if you are a food manufacturer, you say, okay, look, I'm having something on stock which is has an end of life in 4 weeks. I should get it off the shelf or into the shelves now to get it sold. Then you might find yourself under price pressure. And this is also a great approach, or a great application for smart contracts. So this is a research project, to be honest. And this is one of the ways we're trying to research how could we set up a contract framework on an automation, let's call it collaboration framework, in order to reduce overall food waste, or to improve the overall supply chain efficiency in such an environment with perishable goods. Bulk Vision is also a very interesting project where the food transport, it's all about cleaning containers. You might have heard, like the big food manufacturers, they get bulk transports of raw material, and you might have heard there was a manufacturer, a well-known manufacturer of chocolate bars, where there was a consumer who has bitten on a piece of plastic that was hidden inside, and probably nobody knows exactly, or I don't know exactly, but that is one of the problems, is that some transportation companies are not honest in what they transported beforehand. So that could have been a plastic granulate, particularly in the food industry. The question is, has it been an allergen for specific cultural aspects? The question is, has it been kosher? Has it been halal? and how has it been cleaned? Has the container been decently cleaned in the meantime? And there is no decent standard. The main standard says, well, the driver inspected the container by looking through the hole. Well, I don't think he's going to see all the spots and the valves and the tubes. And so using blockchain to track the last 3 charges of a truckload and having certified cleaning stations where you can actually document that a certain well-defined cleaning cycle has been applied is really, really interesting. The OEM project, Kamil more or less presented, supplying data from a digital twin. And the last project is about connecting smart meters gateways to a smart contract, so to facilitate energy trading. So you see that the technology is absolutely versatile, and there are so many use cases coming up and interesting. And I'm pretty much sure we will see a lot of things happening in industry based on this piece of technology.
Thank you very much, Markus, for the last description of the projects. So we are happy to open a discussion, maybe answer any questions, and otherwise, I would like to say thank you for everybody who joined this lecture today. And yeah, I'm open for any questions.
Yeah, I see a question came in. Can you elaborate more on the automotive OEM use case? So it's maybe we can talk. It's a different way. So we have several. Could be Kamil. We could talk about the digital twin. Could talk about also warranty case.
Yes. So actually, the digital twin is actually, I mean, of course, the first step you have to do when you would like to transfer a digital twin, you have to have at least any information about your product or to create a digital twin. And this is actually like we described more or less in the detailed look on the transfer module, because this is exactly what it's doing. So just pinpointing specific data of the IT system of a certain supplier and transferring that to a manufacturer or any other company which needs to deal with those data. Like we could have, for example, also a supplier which needs to have that data to optimize their systems based on the data which are coming from the supplier from the other supplier, to have a perfect assembly of parts at the manufacturer side. This is one of the major things we would like to we are covering here with the transfer module.
I just posted the link. We have a very I think concise video showing particularly what would be the advantage of transferring a digital twin between companies in the example of an automotive setting. But it doesn't really matter whether it's automotive or not. It's just that automotive obviously has very strong supply chains. But it gives you a very good impression on what is possible. And even then, once you have established a bidirectional data exchange between companies, maybe the OEM is only interested in quality aspects of specific components. Once you are able to exchange data, it opens completely new dimensions of collaborations. So the supplier gives you some quality data. The OEM sends back, okay, I'm giving you a just in sequence order. Please provide the material in a certain order. So he knows he's going to avoid a lot of production quality problems. But at the same time, the supplier could provide the information on which tray, in which truck, at which position certain components have been put. You can use this information for maintenance, for emergency transport. So if a delivery is late, you can a forklift is already waiting for the truck. He knows exactly pallet number 4 is for me, and I'm bringing it to a certain position. This is really also how can I say, if you're avoiding improving quality in your production through this mechanism, you're reducing the number of warranty cases you have. The advantages are numerous. With going down to even the recycling of the product at the end of life. So having this information on what material has actually been built into this product allows you to do decent recycling, which is becoming more and more important, including CO2 footprint, you name it.
Yeah, I guess you have a quite good impression right now that it looks like you do not have to have this big ecosystem to run a blockchain technology-based solution. And I think that it is worth to try it from the very small, for a very small supply chain, and then extend it step by step. So then you have afterwards maybe a big ecosystem, but you can also try or use it in your own corporate just to have a better data exchange and to make sure that your business processes are running as they should, and to maintain and monitor them. So this is probably one of our we are one of the only ones probably who have this aspect that you can run probably a blockchain also without one corporate.
Yeah, one corporate, or even you could say, I'm giving the extreme example, you could be on the blockchain all by your own almost, and even seize an advantage. Because if you were a supplier and you're having your customers are nagging you all the time to provide data, and I know, for instance, that I was talking once to a company, an aviation company, and he said, oh, all the plane manufacturers, they want to have data about consumption, about miles flown, about this and that, and number of passengers and all that. Now you have to deliver all this data, manually respond. You could say, wait a minute, I just set up a smart contract. I list for all these companies, I'm giving them this, you can have access to the passenger numbers, but only for these type of machines, and You list it in the smart contract, you define the rule set, and then the next request is coming up, you say, look, I provided a login on my website for you, so you can authenticate on this website. You type in the serial number of the component for which you want to have data, and then you can have it for download. There you go. But please leave me alone. Now the process is automated, and the data owner does not have to worry about that somebody could circumvent his rule set. And on top, blockchain is providing this: the whole logging, the whole audit trail, who pulled data for which serial number at what point in time. Although the data itself is not there, the logging and tracing about the interactions are there.
Yeah, exactly.
Any more questions?
I don't see any more questions in the chat.
Everybody's happy?
Yeah, I think so. This was a really, really great discussion. Our thanks to you, Markus and Kamil, for presenting and educating our audience on your technology. And I, for one, especially appreciate your efforts to eliminate food waste. That's really good work. So as
thank you very much.
The recording will be posted on our website, dlt.mobi, in the coming weeks. So be sure to check it out. And until then, take care and have a good day, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.